one adjective I'd use for Razor so far is careful, and maybe it's been too careful. I think he came into Test rugby and realized pretty quickly it was a different level, I think he would have encountered imposter syndrome for a while, like you and I did when we were talking to players.
I'll take a 2-2 draw right off the boat right now, and 4 Test matches where the All Blacks are sitting right now. A 2-2 draw to me would be a win for the All Blacks to come out of their square. DSPN is brought to you by Novus Glass, proud partner of the Special Olympics New Zealand. The Special Olympics New Zealand National Summer Games is in Christchurch, Otautahi, this December. Across New Zealand, Aotearoa athletes, clubs, volunteers and families are getting ready, training, supporting each other and celebrating as the flame of hope travels down the country. Text Novus to 3598 to support our athletes. That's Novus, Novus, to 3598 to support our incredible athletes at the Special Olympics in Christchurch, Otautahi, this December. Notice it, Novus it.
Welcome to the DSPN.
Team New Zealand's in trouble.
Oh, he's done it again, Ricky Herbert.
The Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
DSPN, welcome to the week, people. What a week we've got planned for you. Tony Johnson is going to outline this week 5 great ways to improve rugby. Matt Burke is going to look at where Australia are at right now, heading into next year and then the World Cup and beyond. Pat Lamb, another special guest on the show. But right now, Haribaldi, Johnissimo, Wandering Minstrel, Rugby Troubadour, 8-9 combo podcast, Lekker Pod, joins us again. We've got a lot to talk about, my friend. You look well.
Buongiorno, my brother. Maledetto, as they say in Venezia. There is so much to talk about in rugby, even when there's not much going on. Isn't that true?
Right. Yeah, of course there is. And this is the best bit because we've got the whole off-season. I mean, look, there is plenty going on in the Northern Hemisphere as well. We know with those club competitions, if you want your fix. We've got an international program ahead of us next year, which is amongst, I think, the most exciting prospect-wise that we've had in a long time. But we got to kick it off with, and I'm going to say our man, because Rassie Erasmus belongs to the world of rugby. I know he's yours, and I know that South African fans just adore this guy. But what he has brought to this game, he is a constant talking point. It used to be Eddie Jones, and Eddie Jones was a different kind of talking point. Rassie is just excellent. We don't get to hear or see from him that much, but we get to see everything that he has his hands on and does. And it must be really the best news ever for every Springbok fan around the world that he has signed on to 2031.
Yeah, because all you want as a fan is that your coach be maniacally obsessed with the fortunes of your team, absolutely honest when they fail, call things dog shit or hontkak, as he called them in Ellis Park, and mean it, and actually mean that it is dog shit.
There you go.
So that you are left to understand that he's going to build it and repair it, not that you think, oh, I wonder if he gets it. I wonder if he's soft selling it. I wonder if he's talking to the guys upstairs in the boardroom trying to sell. Rassie's never been like that. Interesting fellow, Eastern Province, not from a proper school, he wasn't a rich boy, didn't come from the echelons of Afrikaner power. Always been a bit of a maverick, liked using signal lights in Free State, much more ISP and data-driven, rugby analysis for the Western Province. Went abroad, came back, and just has taken it to new levels. And one thing I think you'll appreciate, because I know you bemoan the lackadaisical approach of New Zealand NZRU right now on failure, is he takes everything to heart. It's passion. And so it's not just this analysis guy, this wonky guy, this boffin with a bunch of people and laptops. He punches holes in walls. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He believes in transformation racially. He has never been stuck up. He is not part of that old, bond of guys that kind of ran South Africa. He's a maverick in the truest sense. And I think it's probably a lot of fun for people outside. I would imagine for someone like you to watch a character like that, just sort of larger than 100%. Life, almost a Dickensian character.
Yeah, and it's, with the success adds and means everything to it, doesn't it? Because if this was a guy that was who he is and he wasn't a back-to-back world champion and he wasn't leading the world with everything that he seems to do, if he was a guy that was doing lineouts in the middle of the field and his team was a 6 and 7 team during the year, well, he'd be a completely different character. But this is a guy that is now on the verge of, if not a hat-trick of Rugby World Cups, He wants 4 on the floor. He wants to win all 4. That would elevate him to the greatest ever coach that has ever coached the game at any level, at any time, and probably would never be surpassed. So I'm starting to think that maybe, and I'm reading only into this, people, that he's thinking of his own legacy as well here. Or, Harry, does he just enjoy it so much and he's just on such a ride at the moment, he's thinking, why would I jump off this train? Give me one good reason why I would jump off.
As a Rossiologist, I will say he has matured. Some of it is he's actually learned through the school of hard knocks. Things haven't worked for him. He has been, I think, sometimes struck by his own failures as a human, as a man. Sometimes he just took it on the chin and said, I did wrong. But I think what he's done most of all is he's evened out the dips and the valleys. In South African rugby, we tended to peak for the World Cup and then have this terrible trough about 2 years in. So this season, on the wave of 27 wins out of 30 matches in a row, taking the World Cup the world number 1 ranking and just owning it for the better part of years now, and blooding players like Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu, Zachary Porthen, 21-year-old prop, throwing guys into the mix, guys that no one even heard of, Bowen Fenter from Edinburgh. And what he's really done is he's taught us as South African fans not to think someone's benched. It's not, oh, no, you got demoted. Oh, no, why is Andre Pollard not playing? It's no one owns the jersey. There's probably 3 positions, Peter Stifter-Toy, Eben Etzebeth, possibly Damon Delende, who actually own that jersey. Everyone else is cyclable. And by doing that, he finally was able to do the new blood plus keep the wins coming. That is always the straddle for a guy like Rassie Robertson, for example. How do you rebuild but then also keep winning?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably Rassie's greatest legacy, is to take the bomb squad and make it a normal thing in the world where people are focused more on how you end the match and who's on the field at the end than particularly who starts the match.
Yeah, really savvy look there. Yeah, really great perspective to put on it, because that's exactly what is happening at the moment. And I want to talk to you later on here about that bench thing, that scrum thing in Ireland, all of those kind of topics. As soon as I read that he's staying on for another couple of terms, another couple of World Cups, the first thing that struck my mind as a New Zealander is, what does that then mean for Tony Brown? Does Tony Brown, is he riding alongside the whole of this? Or that says to me that he's probably there now, at least through till 2027, maybe beyond that. So for all of us All Black fans who are looking around thinking, well, what happens if it doesn't work for Razor? Who's next? And if it is Jamie Joseph, where is Tony Brown? Well, do you think Tony Brown is welded to the hip now with Rassie as far as this mission, this journey goes?
That's my understanding, and I have pretty good sources on this, that Jerry Flannery on the defense is not the one that's welded, but it's Tony Brown. The idea that Rassie believed in his bones that the Boks would not win in 2023 using 2019 tactics or 27, they have to evolve. And so the Boks had to be every man an attack weapon, 15 attackers on the field. It would not do to have a 10-man rugby or even 12 or 13-man rugby. It had to be all. And Tony Brown was that person. And I don't think Rassie understood Tony Ball at first, and now he does. And so now he's 100% behind him. He put some fire under him post Ellis Park, and Tony Brown was on the hot seat, but he delivered. And that's the greatest thing in sports, is if you can be in trouble, stare down the barrel, and then turn it around. So he has that kind of faith. On defense, Jacques Nienaber is sure to come back. And when you have the triumvirate of Felix Jones, that sort of psychological guy, and then you have Don Human at scrum, and then you have a mix of Tony plus Jacques Nienaber, I think that's who you're looking at. Rassie also did his contract negotiation with those assistants, or his carte blanche ability to prolong the relationship with assistants as part of that negotiation. That's what made it draw out, is he said, if you get me, you get who I want. And no back talk. Like, I have what I want. And so that's what he has. So he loves Tony. He loves how Tony has brought the best out of Sasha as a young player. And he loves how Tony has taught a guy like Andre Esterhuizen, formerly seen as a big tank, into a multi-skilled weapon. He loves how the props are looking for tip passes and for the diamond-shaped midfield pod that they run now, where all the forwards are comfortable. That's Tony Brown. That's Tony Brown's handiwork. And Tony said he was very excited to work with the skill sets of young South African players, particularly players of color who came from backgrounds that were not so rugby. They were just sort of footballers and basketball players. So he loves the all court player, the guy like Sasha who can really do any trick he wants. And he wanted to be the architect of that, of bringing Safa rugby into that field. And that's dangerous for everyone else, because what always held us back is we were too blunt force trauma. We were too we're tough, but we were dumb. And now Tony's bringing that sort of acumen, IQ. So bad news for All Black fans. If you like Tony Brown, I think he's enjoying his time.
Look, and this is, I put out a clip a couple of weeks ago, and I've just have received so much flack from South African fans about it, saying, I'm sick of worshipping at the altar of Rassie Erasmus. You aren't my God. I have a different God. But I do love everything that he's brought to rugby, and anyone that comes into the sport who elevates like that, who actually takes the game somewhere else, who gives us things to think about and talk about, who creates a different way of playing. I mean, this is what rugby needs. I mean, it's got to evolve the whole time, and he is at the absolute forefront of it. I'm looking at Mark Alexander, the South African rugby president. This is the easiest thing you've ever had to do, mate. This is the easiest thing you've ever had to sign. This is no triumph for you. This was only a loss for you if you somehow managed to cock this up. But an extraordinary quote from him over the last week, which is topic number 2. We will never host another Rugby World Cup. That's effectively what he said. South Africa are not going to host. As far as he's concerned, if he's in charge, you're not going to put a bid in to host another Rugby World Cup. This is just madness, isn't it? How has he and the South African Rugby Board, or whoever they are, reached this decision?
Well, I think it was the cautionary tale of 2023, where in the lead up to it, we had everything you're supposed to have. We had the informal blessing, we had the behind the scenes blessing, we had the under table blessing. We won the review, we beat France, we beat Ireland, we beat whoever else was up for it. We had all of our brothers in arms. New Zealand never stabbed us in the back, never will. But it was Japan and Morocco, of all things, that were turned by French money. And this is documented. Don't worry about slow defamation or something. And so at the 11th hour, the French took it. And the thinking was that was the best last chance of us to have the World Cup in South Africa. And it was going to be a long time, if ever. Infrastructure, security, travel, broadcast revenue, currency, exchange, etc., would favor it, given that rich countries like Japan, France, not Ireland, not South Africa, because Ireland's too small, probably not New Zealand.
No,
it's going to be
not us again.
It'll be US, it'll be Dubai, it'll be something else. It'll be a show. It'll be all about the extravaganza, all about the impresario circus. And I think he's probably right. Plus, a country like ours loses money probably on it, and you're not automatically going to be able to float it. There's countries like Greece that went bankrupt hosting the Olympics. Right. So I just don't think it's a given, and I think maybe he's just being realistic.
Such a shame, though, isn't it? When we got it in 2011, we didn't know whether we'd ever be able to host it again, and had a great World Cup. And then Australia have got it next year. I mean, if it's not in a rugby country, to me, it's kind of like taking State of Origin to Hong Kong or something. I mean, this kind of whole sporting circus that the marketing departments get involved in, it's so gimmicky. I can't stand it. It really, just for an old guy like me, it's just not right. There's something about it not right. And having a Rugby World Cup in the Middle East, we know it's coming, Harry. It's just whether it's the 235 or 239, we know it's coming because the greedy old fat cats at World Rugby, I mean, they love this stuff because it's a big cash thing up there, and then they get their bonuses and so forth, and swanning around in that part of the world, rubbing shoulders with the IOC guys and thinking they're all part of that. This is what it's all about at that level, isn't it? And to me, it's a real shame. We lose a big chunk of something, and you don't ever get it back. That's the thing. If New Zealand don't host a World Cup, if South Africa don't host another World Cup in our lifetimes, you never buy that back again. It'll never happen again. Think about that, rugby fans. If you're happy to go to wherever it is in the world where China hosts the next World Cup, nothing against China. I love China. I've been there a few times as a country. But is that a place where you really want to go and watch a Rugby World Cup? Why don't you just create an AI background, you people, and just play it on a rugby field? Someone just create, maybe that's the next step. I don't know. Frustrating.
Part of why we, and I say you and I and all the people listening to this or watching this love rugby is because there's a romantic part to it. It's not like any other sport. we actually know the history. We remember tours, or our grandfather tells us about tours that happen at a certain time and place. And we know that the heartlands of rugby, whether they be Stellenbosch or somewhere near Mendoza or somewhere
Taranaki.
in Auckland, it belongs there. It belongs there because it must be there. And so hosting a beautiful World Cup in Ireland, for example, would be brilliant.
Wouldn't it?
How crazy would it be? Maybe it'll jump across to Scotland for some games. What about Argentina?
Yeah.
What about even a country like that where they have the stadia? Why are we going sort of sports washing down this route where it's going to be sterile, where there's going to be a lot of our values will evaporate when we're in places that don't respect the rights of gay members of our community,
Exactly
women,
right.
our right to drink a beer and
Yeah.
maybe get a bit sloshed. All that stuff, no, I think it's not worth it. But they're chasing sponsors that are mega. I'm talking the mega sponsors. That's what they want. And they say to us, it's because this shop window to the world pays for everything else. And I say, fine, then why do you fuck up the draw?
Yeah.
So, like...
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, look, and let's talk about that. You know, I watched the FIFA World Cup draw over the weekend. How to turn a 20-minute enterprise into 3 hours of utter dull boredom. But at the same time, this is a 48-team tournament this is the Soccer World Cup, the biggest sporting event on the planet, and will never not be anything other than the biggest. There's still 8 teams that haven't even qualified, yet they can do the draw, and they can do it 8 months or 6 months out or whatever it is from the event. And World Rugby talks about, we need to book stadiums, we need to book that. It's just all rubbish, isn't it? And yet, and the first thing they said at the beginning of the football draw, these 2 teams are currently the best 2 teams in the world by the rankings. One goes on that side, one goes on that side, and the idea is that the 2 best teams meet in the middle. Now, I don't know if New Zealand is ranked 2 at the moment. Maybe we're ranked 2. England are probably ahead of us on the actual playing grass at the moment. But yeah, how to cock this drop. And people have been giving us a lot of flack, Harry, about this, saying, you're moaning and you're whinging. I'm not moaning or whinging about nothing. If the All Blacks want to win the World Cup, we've got to beat every team in front of us. I'm just talking about, as a fan, as somebody who loves the game, watching it, why do you want Federer and Nadal to meet in a quarterfinal? Why do you want that? What is the purpose of that? When you've got some other guy over this side of the draw that's now going to make the final. How does that work?
Yeah, so there's 3 reasons why it's really ridiculous and a total cock up. One is the idea of seeding in general. It came up in tennis, by the way. People travel a long way. They want to see the best players. And so seeding just became a logic to it. We just use seeding in the name of a world ranking to divide the teams into these 6 anyway. There's a fine line between 6 and 7. Why not draw the finest of lines between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4?
Yeah.
Like soccer just did, with Spain and Argentina not able to meet until the final if they keep winning. Second, the sport itself cries out for an All Black Springboks rematch if they do their job, because it's the 2011, 2015 Steve Hansen versus the Rassie Erasmus 2019 to 23, and then this is the settler. This is the Lakers Celtics. This is the rivalries. This is Liverpool Man U. This is the kind of thing you want: big rivalries replicated. And in this case, it's not artificial. These 2 teams just scrapped it out, tooth and claw, to be 1 and 2 at the end of the season. 14 wins, 13 wins. And they're clearly the best 2 teams, notwithstanding England's late win. And so it doesn't even make sense. And the third thing, like you say, is why are we the only sport that cannot plan a thing in 8 to 10 months? I don't get it. It's a very small tournament, actually.
Yeah.
And because you have more pools and more teams in, the pools themselves are going to be a snoozer. Have you seen the pool that South Africa's in?
The game, the actual tournament doesn't start till the quarterfinal now. I mean, there might be one,
and then you
might
have
be 2 round of 16
game starts in the quarterfinal, and there it is.
Yeah.
Look, so nothing. All Black Springboks, and then what? You might have another snoozer in the quarterfinals. So I don't understand it. We got lucky in 23 because, yes, that was a beautiful quarterfinal between the Boks and yes, Ireland, New Zealand, but we got lucky because we had an All Black Springboks final. We got lucky, and we didn't heed the lessons of that, and just stack the draw, use seedings, they're reliable, and make sure you protect the big ticket teams.
Next year's rugby tour, and I don't know whether it's worth speculating about the World Cup right now. To me, there's so much rugby to play, and when Scott Robertson said last week and reminded us that before we play that quarterfinal, the inevitable quarterfinal against your mob, We play 6 times before that. So that's a hell of a lot of Springbok All Black rugby to look forward to. So I'm tending to park 2027 now and think whatever happens in 2010, it'll take care of itself. Who's around playing then? What injuries are there? Do World Rugby throw a law in that you're not allowed to pass the ball any longer than 3 metres to really handicap the All Blacks? Is that what they're going to do next, is it? But so next year is, to me, right in front of us. And that tour of South Africa, I don't think this is defeatist. I'll take a 2-2 draw right off the boat right now. And 4 test matches where the All Blacks are sitting right now, a 2-2 draw to me would be a win for the All Blacks to come out of their square. What do you think?
I think so. Last 10 have been 7-3 for the Boks. There's clearly a superiority there. It's unusual, but it's so the decade is flowing the Boks way. With them being in South Africa, I think that's right. You'd split right now. You'd say, I'll take the split.
Yeah.
Coupled with the Wellington debacle where it seemed to me, I'm not making accusations, it just seemed to me that some of the All Blacks had their heads down. And so if you can rebound in 2026, bully for you, I think that's great. The rivalry itself is being billed as the greatest rivalry. It is. That's not even any question. So let's go. I'm so excited. I'll be at all 3, the first 3, the one Ellis Park and then Cape Town and then FNB, which is almost 100,000 person stadium. So we're moving it to a soccer stadium. It'll be sold out in seconds. This is the kind of stuff that people really want. And if World Rugby can sort of get their minds around that, then they won't make stuff up next time about the draw. And the other thing is, I think it's so fascinating to see what Razor does. We know that Rassie will be the most unpredictable, sort of playing small ball, tall ball like the NBA, not using the bench as a replacement, more as a, what can I do differently for 30 minutes, 35 minutes? Will Razor come that way, or will Razor continue to be the most buttoned down, conservative, surprisingly to me, because he doesn't look like he's conservative, Mr. Breakdance, but will he continue to do that, or will he just say, hell for leather? Let's go to the Republic and make our stand. I hope he does, because that would be super box office.
Yeah, your thoughts on where he's at the moment after 2 years, and there's been a lot of debate, as you know, amongst the New Zealand All Black fans here as to where the team is at. Is he the right guy? We have these discussions every year anyway, but more particularly at the moment because the way that the team has performed this year, those 3 losses, the shadow that they have cast, do we have the cattle actually, do we have the players? Are the players getting the right preparation? And in terms of that's through Super Rugby, which is a reduced competition these days. And in terms of him, what does he do next year? Because he keeps talking about, and the whole of New Zealand rugby is geared towards this thing called the World Cup. But as you say, this is such a big hurdle in front of us now. And a lot of what's going to happen at the World Cup for our 2 teams is going to be determined by what happens during that series, because those players that perform in that series are the ones that are going to get the nod for the World Cup, providing that they're fit. There's no question about that. So a couple of questions. Where do you think he's at the moment? What does Rassie have that he doesn't have? Where does Rassie lead him? And where do you think maybe that he needs to perhaps start driving down to get back onto that level? Because we've always thought that he's an innovative coach. We've always thought that about Razor throughout Super Rugby. You don't win 7 Super Rugby titles, and some of those titles, the first one he won over and up on the veldt, which was incredible, and then to continue to rebuild that team, to lose players, just the fact that he's managed to do that says that he can think on his feet and things. But we aren't seeing as much of that in the All Blacks as we wish that we were. So, yeah, your thoughts on where he's at the moment? What does he need to do, and how far behind Rassie is he at the moment?
Okay, so I think, the one adjective I'd use for Razor so far is careful, and maybe it's been too careful. I think he came into Test rugby and realized pretty quickly it was a different level, and I think he would have encountered imposter syndrome for a while, like you and I did when we were talking to players.
Oh, yeah.
At Eden Park.
Yeah.
And then I think, like sometimes happen to us when we feel like we've been, beaten or something was disappointing, we kind of draw into ourselves and try even less crazy stuff. We go, let's just go back to basics. And there's a sneaking suspicion that he won at Crusaders for 2 reasons. One, he amassed and kept happy and motivated the best group of players, and that he just had the best players over a while.
That's fair.
But that's a tribute to him, though, that he kept them happy. He handled the stars. He handled the journeymen. He wedded that together. It was well done, but not from tactical innovativeness. maybe just we will pound you up front. We'll have incredible set pieces. We have great breakdown. We have the best, 9 and 10s, and we can finish, and then just sort of wear you down with superior depth. At Test rugby, everyone's got that. So you have to do something else, or a guy like Andy Farrell can undo you even if you do have superiority sometimes. You can just be that clever. Or Joe Schmidt can do a one game plan thing that undoes you. I think the matchups are problematic for the All Blacks right now against the Boks, but not against Ireland. I think you've figured Ireland out, right? So you got that done. That's done. I think the Boks are a problem because of kick space, because of Tony Brown, because of shifting attack patterns that seem to keep shifting, because of a weird turnaround where we seem a bit fitter for some reason, and it's the All Blacks that fade for some reason, with exceptions of Artie Surveyor, who has no lactic acid or something. Just in general, it looks like the All Blacks are not superiority edge on fitness anymore. And I think that's a problem because of the type of rugby that Rassie wants to play, which is unbelievably exhausting. We exhausted ourselves at Ellis Park and the Wallabies won. But beyond that, most teams have not been able to live with 75 minutes of hell and then 5 minutes of Hades. It's just not in the cards. If there's not a bomb squad attitude, where Razor doesn't substitute very well, in my opinion, he needs to work on his oranges, adjustments, halftime. He doesn't seem to make the right adjustments on time like a Farrell does, like a Borthwick does. I worry about that. I also worry about, is he the only guy in there that no one's able to say, hey, rubbish, that's wrong. Like who can talk back to him, I guess. That's where I think maybe he needs to grow.
Let's leave it with the whole scrum thing, the red flag scrum thing, which is something that, I said that I was going to bring up with you. And I find this really amusing that in a game which to me, the scrum is such an integral part of what rugby is. I've grown up where, obviously I've got no physical knowledge of it, but I've grown up watching this incredible machine thing that happens, and I love that shot up above the drone where you've just got these two packs going at each other and this sheer physical force and what happens in there and who knows what happens in there, and a skinny little referee deciding that when 500 kilos of men go hard out, he can actually figure out whose shoulder did what and things. It's just the whole complications around it and the dominance exerted from it that is so important in Test rugby, if nothing else, that you get that right. And it doesn't matter what your tactics are or how many fancy backline players you've got, you own that part of the game, and quite often you can win a Test match off it. And so the moment that somebody starts being so dominant at it like you guys have been, and those tactics against Ireland, I thought were brilliant. I just loved it. Scrum them into the ground. Their forward pack is exhausted. You've got wounded warriors lying all over the field. Isn't that what you're meant to do? I mean, I'm going back to William Wallace. Kill the guys on the horses first. The ones with the big spears. And then they got the guy. See what I mean? This is what rugby is, isn't it? So why do people get so upset when anything happens like that? And all of a sudden the callers, it's got to be depowered and deregulated and everything else.
Yeah, in no other sport do we change so much. From year to year, when anyone gets ahead on something, then there's the calls to change the laws, have a trial.
Yeah, exactly, that's it. Yeah,
I think it's interesting. Emerging nations, European nations, maybe in the Eastern Europe or maybe in the Americas, they understand the scrum is one of the quickest routes to success. It's not building incredible patterns in attack. It's very difficult to breed 7, plus 2 or 3 reserves, brilliant attack weapons in the back line. It's really more from the big fat guys and big tough guys and strong guys and wrestlers and boxers and people who would have been bouncers and put them into a pack. Yeah. And so I think the scrum shouldn't be viewed as this, that's just a way to beat down small teams. That's actually an easier way to beat Georgia and to be Argentina and to be the USA and get into the mix is through power and size. I also think that it's an interesting thing because we have far fewer scrums. There's some test matches now where there are hardly any scrums. So that's why the Irish scrum down was so interesting, because you just saw scrum, and it was like, we are not going to let you out of this vice, and the time is ticking, and we're 2 scores ahead. We are winning this game in your home patch. Your crowd is silent. They're grouchy. We like it.
Yeah.
We're beating you up in your backyard in front of your uncles, and you brought your cousins, and you brought your other brothers, and we beat them all up. And now, was it beautiful? Was it glorious? No, but it's kind of strangely, awfully wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think that is cool. That's part of rugby. I think rugby is interesting because of these different parts. Like, you can fix this part and then, I'm sorry, this one will get you. I do this 5 thing with coaches. I go, which would you least like to give up? 5 line breaks, 5 stolen lineouts, 5 kicks regained by the other side, 5 scrum penalties, 5 charge downs. And most coaches say, I don't want 5 scrum penalties against me.
Here you go.
I'm probably toast. My team is probably done at that point. I've got cards against me. The referee hates me. The next 10 scrums will all be cards as well.
It is fabulous talking to you, and it is always so good to catch up, and I can't wait for next year when we're over at your place, which is just going to be absolutely brilliant. We've got lots, as always, to talk about. As I said right at the start, we've got these, the top 14 going on and the URC going on, and we're going to have the Champions Cup and all of that. So there is plenty of rugby. But let's just look back at this season very quickly and just give us a word or a phrase or a thought which, to me, sums up what you have watched this season in totality, if you could.
Oh, I think adaptability was the corner of the realm. So the teams like South Africa and England that found adaptability in their game plans and in their team sheets, and put different attacks on you. So when someone went down with injury, you didn't get the same old. You got something different. I thought that was the rise. The second was the escort rule had more change in how play looked than any other adjustment that rugby's made. All these fine-tuning and giant trials, just saying you cannot guard or escort changed so much about rugby. And it meant that the quality of your kicking and chasing became more of an aerial, almost AFL game, kind of cool looking in its own right. Different from rugby in 1950, 1960, 1970. I mean, who was up in the air? No one really, just at lineouts. But now you have people launching like Joseph Akusu-Suali'i or Kanan Moody, and they're like proper tall athletes. Probably that was one of the features of 2025 was the aerial game. And then finally, I would think the return of the scrum, just sort of a awkward, inconvenient old grandfather at their family reunion saying, hey, everyone, I'm still here and I can still put you in the dust. What a year. And what a great year for All Blacks and Springboks fans, because even with some of the things we didn't like, here we are, 14 wins, 13 wins, whatever it was, just 2 losses each.
3 for us,
and just so fun to have the rivalry coming next year to sort some things out or not.
I'll leave you with this, 2 words, second half, awe and wonder. And I'm going to pick out 4 games for you. Ellis Park, where the Australians, I thought, turned rugby on its head that day. The rebound from South Africa from that point on is incredible. How many other teams could come back from that? Then the second half, obviously in Wellington, which was just shell shock. And again, that was a level. To think that your team could go from where it was to that. Second half, South Africa against France, the best 40 minutes of rugby I watched all year. That just sat me on my backside, and I was just like shaking my head going, you're down to 14 men and you are producing this. And then the second half, England against us, which was a slap in the face, which said, man, we got a hell of a lot of work to do. So second half is what's ringing in my head as I look back at the year. A wonderful year, a brilliant year, and a year that we've got to know each other and spent a hell of a lot of time doing this, and let's keep doing it.
I love it, man. You're a guy who really comes at it honestly. We need candor in our sport. There's far too much guys in blazers with elbow patches talking in circles. You just come right at it and just, damn the tactics, said Horatio Nelson. Go straight at him. That's what you do.
Huge thank you to Novus Glass for sponsoring this episode of the DSPN and for being a proud partner of the Special Olympics New Zealand. This December, over 1,200 incredible athletes, along with hundreds of volunteers, coaches and other support staff, will be making their way to Christchurch or Tautahi for the Special Olympics New Zealand 2025 National Summer Games. Novus Glass is proud to be supporting something special, and you can help support the athletes too by texting Novus to 3598. That's Novus, Novus 3598. Thanks again, Novus Glass, for supporting us here on the DSPN. Windscreen, crack or chip, notice it, Novus it.
DSPN.